US delegation is here in Israel to discuss controversial annexation plans with just 3 days left until Jerusalem says it will begin. New restrictions could be implemented to deal with a renewed outbreak of coronavirus in Israel, with hundreds of new cases in just the last 24 hours. We'll go live to our correspondent on the ground. And the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights is reporting an overnight airstrike in Syria, killing at least 6 people right after a visit by the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Hello, I'm Sarah Coates. Thanks for joining me. We begin with the coronavirus pandemic, and cases here in Israel are continuing to climb, with the so-called coronavirus cabinet set to meet today to look whether new restrictions should be implemented to try and stop the spread. Now, this is a 19-year-old woman with underlying conditions, is the latest corona death here in Israel, with 621 cases recorded in just the last 24 hours. A number of restrictions have already been put on some neighbourhoods considered hotspots, including the closure of beaches, with the cabinet set to decide if those should be extended further. And for more, let's bring in our correspondent, Alec Pollard, who is standing by in one of these so-called hotspots, Bat Yam. Alec, good morning to you. Thanks for joining me. Firstly, we are expecting this Corona Cabinet to meet today. We do understand they already met overnight without coming to any kind of conclusion. What is the very latest there?
Well, yes, the Corona Cabinet is deciding what they need to do, because there is a really serious rise in cases, and the way the public is behaving is really not corresponding to that rise. Because at the moment, the number of daily infections, it's very close to what it was at the peak of the coronavirus outbreak here in Israel around over a month ago. And then everybody was in lockdown. Many businesses were not allowed to operate, and that caused the number of infections to go down. And after that, they had to reopen the economy, the government, and now the infections are going back up. But people are not really feeling it in their perception, because they went through that period where the amount of infections went down and people are not being careful, not wearing masks, everyone's touching, hugging. We're seeing tons of people on the beach, tons of people out and about, and at this rate, there is a good chance that the number will rise way beyond what it was at the peak here in Israel, which is why the cabinet is looking to implement restrictions, something that won't go down very well with the public.
And Alec, what are we hearing in regards to testing? I know the Israeli government was saying it wanted to test some 60,000 people per day. Is that possible?
60,000, that will be difficult. The government did say earlier on in the crisis that their goal, the benchmark they had set for themselves, was 30,000 a day. They never hit that benchmark. They reached at maximum around 15,000 a day, no more than that. So 60,000, that's more than double the benchmark, which they only reached half of the benchmark they set for themselves, 30,000, meaning they need to increase by 400% in order to reach 60,000 a day. That's a very difficult thing to do. If they apply the resources to it, then potentially they can do it, but that's a lot of testing. It is a lot of testing.
It certainly is. And Alec, tell me, what are you seeing on the ground in regards to police presence? I know that you've really been out and about covering this renewed outbreak for the last week or so.
Well, yesterday on the beach in Tel Aviv, or in the Jaffa near our studios, I did see policemen walking around and giving people warnings and fines for not walking around with masks. That was the situation around 2 months ago, where people were getting fines just for walking around on the beach without a mask. And then they stopped doing it, the police. They stopped enforcing it because the number of infections went down, and there was this feeling that the coronavirus is over. And now that it's coming back, we're also seeing that the law enforcement of various issues is also coming back. We don't see it so much over here in Bat Yam at the moment, early in the morning, maybe later in the afternoon. We will still see it, and specifically in Tel Aviv, which is a major city and also where the law tends to be enforced more rigorously on these kinds of issues because there's so many people over there, then we are seeing the comeback of the fines as it would, and that's something that works. You know, fining people does cause them to wear masks, for instance.
You're certainly right there, and certainly, Alec, a lot of people really concerned that if there is another lockdown, it could be similar to the last time. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll come back to you a little later on. Moving on, and with just 3 days left until Israel says it will begin annexation of parts of the West Bank, Palestinians are continuing to mount pressure on the United States and Jerusalem to halt plans, with Ramallah further threatening to pull any security cooperation it has with Israel, which would potentially throw the region into chaos. Defence Minister Benny Gantz says he's willing to immediately meet with Palestinians to advance reciprocal moves if Israel annexes West Bank territory. Now, this is a US delegation is here in Israel to meet with senior officials after lengthy talks in Washington last week failed to come up with any agreement on annexation plans. Now, within the so-called peace plan drawn up by the Trump administration, Israel can apply sovereignty to up to 30% of the West Bank. At least 6 people are dead in Syria following another airstrike in the space of a week, with the attack coming right after a visit by the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Esmail Ghani, to Iranian troops in Syria. Now, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says that the strike happened east of Deir ez-Zor, adding that Iranian sites were hit, with no confirmation as yet as to who was behind the strike. And for more, let's bring in our defence correspondent, Jonathan Regev, who joins me on the phone. Jonathan, good morning. We've just heard about this strike, the second in the space of a week. What more can you tell us about this? Is anyone yet being blamed?
The automatic blame in these kind of cases usually goes to Israel. Israel, on its part, almost never assumes responsibility, but it is the one most likely behind the attack. Israel has said time and again that it will not allow any Iranian entrenchment in Syria, and we know that this attack took place in the area of Abu al-Kamal in eastern Syria, very close to the border between Syria and Iraq, an area which Iran tries to basically create sort of a land corridor going all the way from Tehran through Iran, Iraq, and Syria to the Mediterranean and Lebanon. Israel said time and again that it would not allow any Iranian entrenchment in Syria, including the work on that land corridor running from Iran all the way to the Mediterranean. And we've seen attacks in Syria again and again and again. Usually no claim of responsibility. We should expect the same this time. But it is comfortable for everybody to believe that it is Israel. It is also comfortable for Israel because it creates a notion that Israel is really working very hardly there. Israel is making a major effort to prevent any Iranian entrenchment in Syria and also close to the Iraqi border.
And Jonathan, you did mention that the finger is being pointed at Israel as per usual. This coming on the back of a visit to the region by the head of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. Can we expect any kind of retaliation there?
The fact that there is no claim of responsibility, one of the reasons for this ambiguity is because it allows the other side not to retaliate. If there is a claim of responsibility, it would put maybe Syria, maybe Iran into a corner where they would almost have to react, because if Israel publicly claimed responsibility, then they would feel that the other side would feel that they have to react. One of the reasons for the ambiguity is to let the other side not react to it, and maybe that is one of the reasons why Israel usually keeps quiet about it. Everybody knows that it is Israel, but Israel does not claim a public responsibility, allowing the other side not to strike back. But of course, it is not absolutely sure it has happened. It will happen. The other side has its own consideration.
All right, Jonathan Regev there on the phone. Thanks for bringing us up to speed. Now, we do need to go out for a short break, but when we get back, as COVID-19 cases continue to climb across the globe, health experts are delivering a grim warning. All of that, plenty more. Stay with us.